Retirement. What does that word mean to you? Well, hopefully it's synonymous with freedom, the freedom to live a lifestyle where you don't have to work, you can do what you want, and you have investments and other income coming in that more than take care of your needs. Unfortunately, for too many people, retirement is synonymous with fear, either having to work till they die and never being able to retire, or retiring and not having enough to live on, or worrying about investments that you have no control over, such as the stock market or other things that don't allow you to plan properly to live the lifestyle you want, and you're constantly worrying about them. Worry and fear should not be part of retirement. And my guest today and I will discuss that. We found note investing to be a key part of our retirement planning, and hopefully, this podcast will turn on the light for you as well. We're glad to have you here. We'll start in 1 minute. I think you're going to enjoy the show. We'll see you in a second.
Real estate has created more millionaires than any other form of investing. But, how is that working out for you? Did you become a landlord and invest in rentals, expecting monthly cash flow? Only to become burned out, with all of the headaches of tenants, toilets and turnover? Are you shut out of the game by high prices and tough lending conditions? Is all of your investable capital locked up in a retirement account, and you don't know how to put it to work in real estate? Well, you've come to the right place.
All right, welcome to the No Club USA podcast. This is episode 11. Yeah, I know we've been gone for a while. I think the last time we were here was in April. That episode with Adam Roberts, so well received. A lot of people could relate to Adam and pivoting from multifamily into notes. And the key takeaway from that was prioritizing the velocity of your money. And that's what we do with notes. And I'll get into what notes are and how that works here in a few minutes. But it's been a busy few months. Hopefully you've had a busy summer also. I think it was about a week after that episode came out. I went up to South Bend. I was there for the spring game for Notre Dame. Did get a new hat, so you all don't have to look at the old one that was kind of beat up. It's better than looking at the glare off the top of my head, so that's why I do that for you. So anyway, May was real busy. It was my last month of flying, and weather here in Dallas and around the country is really bad. You never know who you're going to into in the airport, though. I ran into these folks in DFW. It's my mentor and buddy Eddie Speed on the left, founder of Note School, his wife Martha on the right, our friend Vanessa and fellow Note School member there in between. And they were headed to Nashville, and I made sure they knew that it wasn't my fault that their flight was running late. They got it. In fact, I tried to get reassigned onto their flight. I was delayed about 5 hours, and I'm like, well, maybe I can replace the crew that was supposed to take you to Nashville. But anyway, that didn't work out. They got there that evening, but just a real busy month. And then, very shortly after that, 5 days later, I'm retired. I took my Finney flight in June, first week of June, to Nassau and back. And my wife threw a incredible party for me and had a party with the family. Real special time, something I've been looking forward to after 43 years of flying. I'm happy to not have to put on the uniform and go to work anymore. And because of notes and other things, I don't really have to worry about, my income and what we're going to do. And that's kind of the theme of what we're talking about today is retirement and planning ahead, things like that. In July, to celebrate, I took the family on a cruise to Alaska. If you've never done it, it's something you really need to do. If you know me, you know that I do these corny videos where I'm somewhere in the world. Where in the world's that note guy? And I'm talking about being on vacation and not having to worry about my tenants calling me, because I don't have tenants. I have borrowers and I have a servicer, and my cash flow comes in without me having to answer any phone calls or deal with any borrowers. And we'll talk about that in a few seconds. But I did one off the back of the ship in Alaska. But man, if you ever get a chance to do an Alaska cruise, it's definitely a go-to thing. Then August is here, and before you know it, the grandkids are going back to school, and it seems like summer is almost over. So I'm going to buckle back down and get back into the note business, not because I have to, but it's because I love it. I love teaching people about notes, and fortunately for me, I found out about notes just in time. I found out about notes on another podcast 3 years ago when I was 62. Hadn't heard about notes. We had just finished our last flip, my wife and I, and the cash flow situation wasn't great. It's very transactional, but I've been a landlord. I can get into all of the stories of what I've invested in, what I've not invested in, but I wanted the freedom and the lack of headaches that come with note investing, and which is what I discovered when I found out about notes. So anyway, 3 years later, notes make up the vast majority of my portfolio, and it powers a lifestyle that we enjoy. And I'll discuss that more with my guest here in just a minute. But I feel so powerfully about notes that I don't think twice about being on a podcast or having a website that discusses all that. In fact, I've actually written a book about it as well. It's called Financial Freedom Powered by Notes. And what I think was really powerful about it is when I wrote the preface to it, it was 2 days after I retired, and I was headed on vacation with my wife, and we were going to Florida. And it was just kind of discussing how I gotten to where I am and where I don't have to worry about the income coming in. I don't have to worry about, it was a Sunday. I didn't have to worry about one of those Monday mornings where the stock market had plunged and, worried about our financial future. Now, nothing's ever guaranteed or certain, but investing in notes is one of the most stress-free ways to invest that I know of. And the more you get to know about it, the more I think you'll agree. And so I did write a book about note investing. You can go ahead. You can get it actually on our website at noclubusa.com, just like up in the corner up there. On the homepage, you can click on down below, right below the top fold is a link, and there is a link right to my ebook. And in 30 seconds, you're right there. And you can make sure you read that preface and read the book, and you'll go ahead and find out quite a bit about note investing and why it's powered my retirement. And honestly, whatever your definition of retirement is, whether it's just financial freedom to retire at 30 or whatever, notes can do that. And we're going to dive into that here in just a moment. Let me hit our sponsors first, and then we'll get the show going. Yeah, I know I'm biased, but he's earned it. Danny Force, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, covers all corners of our area. He goes to cities and towns that I've never heard of. But one of the top realtors in the Metroplex. It's not just me saying that, but he's been rated one of the top realtors by D Magazine and elsewhere, has the pedigree. I think this slide is old. He's got a lot bigger numbers than this right now. But if you need a buyer or seller representation anywhere around, you want a professional who does it, Danny's your guy. Wouldn't hesitate to recommend him. Information's down in the corner, 817-903-5442, or go see him at DannyForce.com, or follow him on Facebook. Go to Danny Force on Facebook, and you'll be able to keep up with all the transactions he's got going on and insights into the market. My other son, Brian, besides being a real estate agent and runs a successful team, he also is part of Deep Blue Capital. They do multifamily investing. If you're interested at all in this aspect of real estate investing, go to Deep Blue RE. And I'm not promoting any investment on here right now, but you can go and sign up to be on their email list and get on their newsletter, learn how all of this works, keep up to date with the latest offerings. And not only that, but you should tune into More Doors, which is their podcast. They just had their 50th episode, and they bring on heavy hitters in the industry, very big on education, and they want you to know what you're doing in the marketplace. And certainly this podcast and their site are full of good information. If you're a rental property owner anywhere around Dallas, and I think they've expanded to Lubbock and Amarillo, maybe Oklahoma, I'm not sure. But I do know they have 600 or 700 doors under management. Homeward Property Management, one of the top rated property management companies in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you have a property that's a rental, you don't want to be dealing with the headaches. Let Dana Wynn and the team over there take care of that. You'll be happy you did. Just like we have servicers in the note business, you want a property manager, somebody who's going to represent you and get your property filled back up when it's vacant, and take care of all the headaches. So homeward@dfw.com. And hand in hand with that is ProCare DFW. That's the maintenance company that is hand in hand with Homeward. Also, they do standalone remodeling. So highly professional, very price competitive. ProCare DFW for all of your home repair needs and remodeling. And finally, if you want to have a professional podcast, look no further than tourstudios.com, run by my friend Jesse Showalter. He's has a professional studio. You can see a sample of his work at that More Doors podcast. He doesn't do mine only because I'm too cheap and I sit here in my fallout shelter in North Dallas. But now actually I like to record on spur of the moment. But Jesse can help you with any aspect of podcasting, whether it's an introduction, getting on Spotify or some of the other platforms, or anything all the way up to a full in-house studio. So if you're thinking about doing a podcast and want to do it right, tourstudios.com. All right, so before I bring my guest on and have a discussion of notes and retirement, I do know that we have new viewers here who probably have no idea what note investing is about, may not even know what a what a note is. So I want to use a couple of real-world examples and give you a feel for what we're doing here. But I thought this was kind of relevant today. One of my favorite quotes from Warren Buffett: "If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die." You kind of alluded to that with the intro about retirement being something that some people fear rather than embracing. And then Robert Kiyosaki said the most important word in the world of money is cash flow. Whether that's one word or two words doesn't really matter to me. But the second most important word is leverage. And actually with notes, we can do both. And I'm not going to get into the leverage part today, but it's so easy to leverage this this investment type. But we'll save that for another day. So anyway, one of my avatars, one of the guys that I'm trying to rescue, and I say guys, I mean people, so don't take offense, but anybody who's a landlord. I call this the burnout landlord. He's on the hamster wheel trying to juggle all of the things that come into play when you're a landlord. You've got to worry about your tenants and the damages they might do, the government intruding with taxes. You've got repairs, you've got insurance, vacancies, the government, juggling all that, trying to squeeze out some cash flow. And it's a place I've been before. I don't like it. It's not where I want to go in retirement. And Notes offers a great alternative. Because right now a lot of people are wondering, how do I get out of this? And Notes offer a way out of that as well. In fact, on my website, you go to noteclubusa.com/SF, like seller finance. Got a nice 3-page article there written by my mentor, Eddie Speed, on is it crazy to seller finance your rentals or crazy not to? And it's a pretty good discussion on how, in general, and he's run the numbers, you can cash flow about 3 times as much seller financing your property out and getting rid of the taxes and insurance and the headaches versus hanging in there as a landlord. And so, interesting read if that's something that's near and dear to your heart. Key takeaway from the last podcast was prioritize the velocity of your money. And that's one thing Notes does. And I'll show you here in an example. But it's a one-time investment, starts paying off in about 30 days. And you get your investment back very quickly. And it varies by the terms of the note, but you're getting money back quickly and allows you to reinvest it into other vehicles, other notes. And that was we dove into that pretty deeply with Adam back in podcast number 10. So let's talk about cash flow. Cash flow is the lifeblood of any business. It's what you need, in retirement. And it's going to sound like I'm bagging on other investments, and I don't want to do that. I'm in syndications. I'm in long-term investments. I've had the Airbnbs. I've got some money in the stock market. So I've been in all of these different investments. But when you're in a syndication, you can't ask the sponsor to break off a door so you can take it down to the grocery store and buy groceries. So cash flow is very important. And I think especially in the single family rental market, that's been tough to come by lately. So let's look at how this works. Very simply, we're buying existing performing notes. And by note, I mean a mortgage, deed of trust. It's a promise to pay on a home. That's exactly what it is. If you own a mortgage on a house, there's a lender. Well, in this case, I'm the lender, and the borrower makes the payments to me or my company. We call it transitioning to being a lien lord, not a landlord. And so this is what we're talking about. Promissory note plus a mortgage and deed of trust to secure collateral to the promise to pay. Some places it's called a land contract. I have some of those in Mississippi, but it's nothing special. It's not tax deeds or any of that other stuff. Very simply, we've bought mortgages on the market, and now we collect the payments just like the bank does. And remember, the bank owns the tallest buildings in the city, so they must be doing something right. So here's an example. This is actually a note that's wasn't until recently in my portfolio. I love land. Land notes pay very nicely, generally get a little bit higher interest rate on them, and they're not making any more of it, so it's going to go up in value. Also, if I do have to foreclose on it, I don't have to worry about squatters or having to winterize it and break-ins and things like that. So love land. Anyway, so let's look at this particular note. It's on a piece of property in Dahlonega, Georgia. Hopefully I said that right. Now, the borrower purchased this coming up on 3 years ago, and they put $10,000 down on $89,000 loan. And it's pretty typical, but I do like to see they have skin in the game. It's a little over 10%, so that's a good solid down payment. Their loan was held with a private investor who sold them the property, $79,000 at 10% with a balloon at year 10. So the way they constructed this loan, it's going to pay $800 a month every month for 10 years, and at the end of 10 years, they will still owe $57,108, which I can collect at that time. Or if they decide, they can pay it off early, or if they want, they can't come up with that cash, we can go ahead and restructure the note from there. But anyway, gives us some options. So in August of 23, so just about a year ago, the holder of the note decided to sell it to recapitalize their account. At that point, the borrower had paid the loan balance down to $75,763. And so on that open market, I went and bought 98 payments and that balloon for a cost of $62,650. This is called buying at a discount. It's a market condition we have in our industry. It turned that 10% return on the interest on that loan up to a much higher figure. And it also gives me a cushion there. So if I do have to foreclose on this property, I have a property that's worth 89, maybe even more than that now. I've only paid 62 on it. So it is something that's in our business the way it works, and it gives you extra security in the investment. So the plan was to hold on to this for 98 payments. So what happens is every month, a payment for $800 comes to my mailbox. Actually, it's ACH'd into my mailbox, and just collect all this. And over time, if all 98 payments come in, I have the $78,400 of the 98 payments, plus the $57,018 balloon on the end for a total of $135,418. Not a bad return, and I think it works out to about 12% or so. But what I did here for illustrative purposes is I bought a stream of payments. It's an asset. I bought a series of 98 payments for $800. That's exactly what buying a note is all about. And we can do a lot with those streams of payments. We can sell parts of them off. We can go ahead and pledge the note as collateral. So there's a lot of different things we can do. So anyway, this is how a amortization chart would work. This is a graphical representation of an amortization chart. Normally it would come out and go out to about 30 years or so. But the orange represents the loan balance owed by the borrower. The blue represents my investment in the property. And you see it trends down a little bit over time to the balloon at 10 years. So fast forward to about a month or so ago, I got a note from the servicer that says the borrower wants to pay off the property. Well, that's a good thing. That's good because I bought it at a discount. I'll just go ahead and reinvest those funds. So basically 11 months into this purchase, not even 11 months, I got a check from the title company for $75,747. Now, during that 11 months, I had pulled in 7,380 payments. That's not quite a round number of 800, but there was a partial in there, partial payment because of the closing date. So I had a total on this investment of $83,127. Now, remember, I only wrote a check for $62,650. So in the end, I made $20,477 profit, or a 32.6% return in just 10 months, 10 months and change. These payoffs don't happen all the time. They will eventually happen. I call it the money bomb. Don't know when it's going to go off. When you buy at a discount, it's out there. It's going to happen at some point. I would have liked the $800 a month, but hey, I'll turn around, I'll take this profit, and I'll reinvest it in another note. So very cool, but it is something that happens in our business. I did allude to note management before. I have a servicer, just like you have property management. Hopefully you have Homeward DFW there in the DFW area. But anyway, this is all outsourced. So the paperwork all goes to the servicer. They collect the payments. They interact with the borrower. They handle the closing when they pay off early. All I do is get checks, and it costs me anywhere from about $20 to $35 a month, depending upon the servicer. They do all the tax information. They handle everything. And they're also licensed and compliant, because in some states you need licenses to do this. I don't have to worry about it because my servicer is my intermediary. And the nicest part about it is my borrowers have no idea who I am. They don't call me. They don't complain. The servicer handles all of it. It's about as stress and worry free as you can get. It's one of the things I love about this business. All right, now I did tease last podcast that I bought a note in downtown Detroit, and kind of teased it because in my note journey when I first starting out, I want to lower my risk as much as possible. So I perceived just picking up notes in the South and on land and states that had easy foreclosures, relatively easy foreclosures would be the way they go. But I've learned over time that when a good note investment comes along, it may be in a different type of wrapper. And so I was presented with this opportunity that I acted on. So let's go ahead and look at it. It's actually an established daycare on 7 Mile in Detroit. I've gone and taken out the name there for privacy purposes. That's not graffiti. But anyway, the borrower purchased this existing establishment November of 2022. And it was a $123,000 purchase with $30,000 down. I love to see a lot of skin in the game. There was a commercial analysis done on this property. It says it's worth about $169,000. So that's good enough for me. So that left a loan of $93,000 at 8%. And they constructed it as a 6-year loan, paying back almost $1,631 a month for 6 years. So a quick return of principal and interest on this one. The note holder put it on the market in March of 2024. I had the opportunity to pick it up. At that point, the remaining balance was just under $76,000. Perfect pay history by the borrower. So that meant there were 56 payments remaining, and I picked those up for a price of $65,387. That translates to now a 15% return. And for those of you who like to use the 10 BII calculator, which is important in our business, that's how the numbers look. So in this particular case, this is the amortization table. The top is what the borrower owes. The bottom is my investment. With 56 months left, at that payment, we'll return $91,313 on a $65,387 investment. More importantly, my total investment is returned in just a little over 3 years. When we talk about the velocity of money, as these $1,600 payments are coming in, I combine that with other resources. I can go ahead and start buying more notes. So it's a compounding effect that really is amazing to behold. And so I want to stress, this is a long-term payback. It's a one-time transaction that should pay back over time. Now we saw that other note paid off early, which was a good thing. We went ahead and got our cash back and some, and we could redeploy that. Always an ability to redeploy it. But notice in this one, I shouldn't have to touch this one for another 56 months. It should just keep paying like clockwork. If it doesn't, she'll get that straightened out because she doesn't want to lose all the equity that she has in it. So that's pretty much how note investing works. Just to show you, this is a chart. I just kind of threw it together of where my notes are around the country. It just happened to be where it worked out. I do have a cluster in Columbus, Mississippi, and also a cluster up in Indianapolis as well. But if the note is right, then geography is not important. And you may be a little, think it's a little sketchy to try to invest in rentals outside of your area of being able to visit your rentals. Well, that's another nice thing about notes. It's just paper. So If you need to have the property visited, we have resources to have somebody go check it out in case you have to foreclose or check on occupancy. But this is done by distance. You can live anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection. You can work in this business. My wife and I, we love to travel. I alluded to that before. When you have a portfolio of rentals or Airbnbs or whatever, it can be a nightmare. I remember we were on vacation a couple of years ago in Miami having dinner, and the Airbnb guest showed up, and it was one of those guests, if you know what I mean. And the dinner was pretty much ruined with somebody calling me all the time. So I can take off on a cruise ship like I did a little over a month ago and not have Wi-Fi or cell service and not worry because my servicer is handling everything for me. So that's the beauty of note investing. You're getting the cash flow you wanted with the headaches you didn't want. I just got to leave it at that. Another thing, and I'll talk about this with my guest as well, is that when it comes time to leave whatever you've built in your life to your heirs, it's much easier to leave a stack of notes that are paying without headaches than a stack of rental properties and all the management problems that come in with all of those. So anyway, lots of different concepts for you to digest as we go forward. So anyway, you're here to learn, and I wanted to just get you up to speed on the basics before we jumped into with our guest. But I do have a lot of resources on my website. Just go to noclubusa.com. We're not selling anything there, but I've got a lot of great informational resources. Go to that education tab. There are a lot of resources there. I have what's called a Notes Versus series, where there's a couple of 3-minute videos. There's about 6 videos. They're a couple minutes long, and they compare notes to other types of investments you might have, such as multifamily or stock market, things like that, just to do a little bit of a comparison. And like I said, I'm still involved in those other things, but as my book talks about, notes are powering my retirement. I have a library there. I got a book there called Killing Sacred Cows. It's not my book, but a really good book that talks about how the financial industry has kind of set themselves up to succeed and you not so much. And I thought that was really important, and I've got a downloaded copy in that library. You want to see webinars? I've got a webinar in there that I did in January. I'm updating it right now, so by the time you get to there, it might be the newer version. But it's lengthy. It's about an hour and 20 minutes. We kind of take a deep dive into everything we're talking about with notes. So if you got some time and you want to see in depth what I'm talking about, then go visit that. Also, go back to copies of this podcast, the replays. We cover just about every aspect of note investing. And finally, if you'd like to find out more in real time, not real time, but current times, go to a free masterclass. My mentor, Eddie Speed, and the mentor of my guest does a 2-hour virtual masterclass. It's every other Wednesday at 11 o'clock Central. If you can't make it, sign up anyway. Love to have you there in person, but we do want to get you the recording, if nothing else, and find out if note investing is for you. And if you're like me, when you found out about note investing, or if the first time you found out, it kind of clicked. It did for me. When I first heard about it on a random podcast, I was like, where has this been all my life? And I'm hoping a lot of people have that kind of aha moment. And we're trying to facilitate that with this free masterclass. So we're going to take about a 30-second break. We're going to have one more commercial, and then we're going to bring our guest in, and we're going to talk notes. Stay with us. All right, we're back from our short little break. I'm very happy to have a fellow Note School member with me, part of my Note School ecosphere, Monica Masters from West Texas. How you doing, Monica?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me today.
Well, I'm sure glad to have you out today. I know you're a busy person because you're not just a note investor, but you actually work for Note School and Colonial Funding in the note space, actually hooking up note investors with assets. And we'll get to that in a moment. But the reason I wanted to have you on today is because the theme of this podcast has been retirement and freedom. And, as we talked about beforehand off camera, and, freedom means different things to different people. And so as I got back into the podcast again, I wanted to bring on somebody who's kind of at the stage of life where we're kind of retired, but we're still busy, and how notes has impacted our life going forward. And you have a unique insight because you actually not only are an investor but you're actually helping people get started with notes. So before we get to that, if you don't mind, if you tell the folks watching, what your background is a little bit. What were you doing before you got into notes? What was your path forward in the work world?
Okay, so I was working at Verizon as a senior finance manager. Been there for about 38 years. At the time, I was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I'd spent 19 years in the Dallas area. So transferred from my hometown to Dallas, then to Tulsa. And they offered a retirement package, early out package back in December of 2018. And that's when I left the company. But I really got into real estate investing back in 2009. I started wanting to diversify my portfolio after the crash of 2008, got into real estate.
That's quite a time to get involved.
Exactly. So I started, my dad is a retired builder, so he remodeled some little properties for me. So I rented those out. I got into fix and flips. And then I also taught legal wholesaling to investors there in Tulsa so they could build their wholesaling business. But when Verizon offered that early out, I wanted to move back to my hometown in San Angelo, Texas. My dad is aging, and I wanted to be back here to be with him during, his final years. And so when they offered that early out, I knew I didn't want to get back into rentals. I knew I didn't want to get back into fix and flips. Through a friend, I found out about notes. And so I explored that. And that's how I got invested in notes in 2019.
Fantastic. What were you doing at Verizon? You said 38 years?
Yeah, 38 years. So
wow.
Again, yeah. So there's Verizon is a huge company. It was GTE. We merged with Bell Atlantic.
I remember that.
Verizon, right.
Yeah.
So I worked in many departments, but the last department I worked in was in finance.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Yeah. Any customer-facing stuff in that, or is that all just behind the scenes?
We were actually auditors, so we audited the large business customers. So we audited probably about 65 million a month. And
wow,
yeah.
No, good deal. So you said home in San Angelo. So
yes.
Was that where you were before you left for Tulsa?
Actually, I was in the Dallas area. So San Angelo is my hometown. And then I transferred with the company up in the Dallas area. And then the last 5 years I spent there in Tulsa.
Okay. Fantastic. I like Tulsa. Tulsa's a nice town.
It's a pretty place. Nice green country. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in Texas almost 30 years. I don't think I'm allowed to say that Oklahoma's nice, but I had a son who went to college up in Oklahoma, and that kind of changed my opinion of Oklahoma. So I do like.
I enjoyed living there. Yeah.
Yeah. I had some layovers there, and I enjoyed that. So nice little town. So your dad was involved in real estate with you at the same time. So you got started. You said like 2009.
Yeah. So, he was kind of bored, wanted to do some remodeling. And I found that my first property that I bought was a Fannie Mae foreclosure. And I had really planned to flip it. But again, with the market crash, I decided to turn it into a rental. And that worked out really well. Good. So, once I did that one, then I did more, and he remodeled some more for me.
Where was that rental? Was it close by or somewhere else?
It was in San Angelo. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you still have it?
No. So I guess it was when I left Verizon in 2018, I decided to sell my rentals, and then part of my pension and retirement, I moved over because I knew I wanted to set aside some money for note investing. And so that's kind of what I did. So I started note investing slowly, but I wanted to I just didn't want to do the rentals and the fix and flips anymore.
Understand. You're amongst friends here.
Yeah. Retirement. I mean, so, those two things aren't, freedom. There's a lot of work to do that.
Before I move into the notes, you mentioned the term legal wholesaling. What does that mean?
Well, this is where So Jeff Watson, I worked with him. He's an attorney who's very familiar with, and he created a legal wholesaling course. And what I would do is I would teach other investors how to build their legal wholesaling business. So, wholesaling properties. So back in 2010 and during that era, there was a lot of wholesaling going on, and it was profitable. So I helped students to build that business.
I gotcha. What do you think of wholesaling now in this market? Is it the same? Is it a little different?
Oh, I think it's very different, and I think it's hard to wholesale. I think you can't get properties at 50%. From market value. So it's just, I don't think this is a good environment for it. Maybe if you're a large wholesaler where you can buy volume, maybe that, but for me, I was just small and it just didn't work. Yeah.
I think the wholesalers are having trouble finding the end buyers too. I mean, up until a couple of years ago, they could slap some paper on something and, sell it, flip it to a hedge fund or something like that. And now all that money's dried up and, the leads are tough out there. My wife and I fixed and flipped up until about middle of 2021.
Okay.
And I don't know where people are getting decent leads now to do that, but not that I care. It just seems that everything is different in that regards.
Very much so. Yes.
Okay. So you found out about notes in 2018, you said?
Yeah, so I got started, actually 2019. So I was, again, and it was Jeff Watson who introduced me to it because he knew that I was retiring. I had talked to him and he said, you need to start doing something with your IRA and start investing with your IRA. And he said, you have to go to this class with me to learn how to do it, and then I'll help you. So that's really how I got investing with my IRA, because I just didn't realize that you could, buy real estate with IRA funds. I thought it was all stock market driven. So that was a great learning lesson for me.
Exactly. And for those of you who follow my podcast, if you go to the archives at noclubusa.com, go up to the top, go to podcast and click on podcast 3. And we talk about, it's the whole episode is dedicated to what Monica's talking about, which is investing with tax advantage funds. We talk about IRAs. We have Derek Long on from Quest. We talk about investing in IRAs, but also, Roths, very important. And, at our age now, it's looking like I'm going to start trying to do some Roth conversions, and that becomes important. But also, I bought notes with my health savings account, which I didn't even know I could do initially. But some people don't even know what a health savings account is. But anyway, it's a good episode. So if she's piqued your interest on investing with tax advantage funds, after this, you can go to the website and watch that episode. Really, really very, very entertaining. In fact, and informative. In fact, Derek went on at one point. He told me how his dad had bought an airplane with his HSA money, and I'm like, all right, mind blown. That's crazy.
Really?
Yeah. But Monica, the more I learn about this business and other things, even at my age, it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know. You get to our point in life, you think you've heard about everything, and then notes came along, and that was my epiphany. I happened to hear Eddie on a podcast, and I was like, where has this been all my life? So kind of what was your thoughts when you heard about notes versus what you were doing? Did you still have your rental at the time, or had you already gotten rid of it?
Yes. Okay. And I had just finished a fix and flip. So when I heard about the notes, and I thought, ooh, this, at first I wasn't sure, I kind of equated it to like penny stocks, is this something that you can really do? So that's when, I started getting some training on it, so I attended, the note school, a rich rewards class and everything. Mm-hmm. And then I realized then this is what I want to do. I don't want to mess with the real properties. I just want something that's passive that I can invest with my own IRA money. Mm-hmm. So that's what really piqued my interest, because again, I was moving back to San Angelo. I was around all of my family. I still wanted to do the family things. I didn't want to get another job. So I needed something that was income producing, and steady income producing, because when I left the company, I was too young to pull from my retirement. So I had to
wow.
Yes.
So you started young. Wow.
Yeah. So I retired at 57.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I knew I had to have something that was income producing, and notes fit the bill on that.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic. That's great. Mm-hmm. So what caused you to unload the rentals? Do you have any stories or anything
Well, actually, because Dad had remodeled them, they were just so nice and new. I didn't have any horror stories with those. I was able to get top of the market rent. I had good renters in there. We have an Air Force base here in San Angelo, so we had a lot of those individuals that rented out. So I don't have any horror stories with those.
Good.
It's just that I just didn't want to mess with, like, there's still maintenance, and, they were not no older neighborhoods. So there was still some maintenance that had to be done. And I just didn't want to mess with it anymore. I just really wanted to be a passive investor.
Oh, absolutely. I was watching the virtual Rich Rewards class this weekend because I did some speaking at it. And they have an example on there of how you can even have a brand new house, with no maintenance. And over time, notes is superior anyway, but, and especially in this environment with insurance going out of sight and taxes, you can't control anything like that. So, and you, like me, you probably like to travel a little bit. And when you do, I don't like the phone ringing or whatever. I just mentioned before you came on, went on an Alaska cruise, and nobody could have reached me anyway, but nobody needs to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So you convert the funds from the rentals into notes. Is that how you started?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when I left the company, of course, I had all my 401k and I converted that over to my IRA. And then with GTE, I had that pension. And so I thought, okay, I left part of my money into the stock market still, and just set aside enough money to do the note investing. I really wanted to try it out to see how they compare side by side. Mm-hmm. So I bought my first 2 or 3 notes. That process was so easy, and all of a sudden I'm getting monthly paychecks coming in, and I mean, wow,
like 30 days later, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when I compared what my note portfolio had earned compared to my stock market, just within a year, it was way better. It was probably double of what, and so I moved a little bit more over to notes. And so that's really how I got, and really by the earlier this year, I went ahead and put all of my money into notes because they just earn so much more, and it's consistent monthly payments, so, and you can build your retirement around that.
Well, and that's one of the things that I really like about it is you get to sleep at night. We're old enough to have slept, we've been through the crash of 87 and then, the Y2K in 2008, and we just know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, when you get, especially to my age, you get pitched to come to all these little dinner events where a financial advisor he wants to manage your money for 1%. They put this chart up there and this is a stock market over the years. It averages 10%. And I don't have the heart sometimes to go up and put a little ruler on this chart and say, well, if I retired in 2000, it would have taken me 13 years to get back to where I was supposed to be.
Exactly.
So if I retired at 65 in 2000, then at 78, I would have been back to where I was before if I hadn't taken anything out. So I have nothing against the stock market. I've got a little bit of money in there, and I told my wife that it's in a tax advantage fund. And I said, this is the last money we take. This probably pays for the nursing home down the road. Yeah. Let it average that 10%. And I feel for folks who, that's all they have. And, days like last week where it dropped quite a bit. Yeah. I know that like me, you don't want to wake up and see those things. So that doesn't happen with notes.
No, it doesn't.
And the way I've structured mine, I have a combination of cash and retirement, and I've started to ladder them out, as far as, getting shorter ones. When you bought yours, were they at the longer term notes, like 20, 30 years?
Yeah. So, when I first started out, I was looking at the longer term notes, but as I was working with Colonial Funding, I started with them in February, and I started really learning more that, especially at our age where we're into retirement, I would say anybody that's, 50 and above, buy the shorter term notes because you get that interest, more interest on those notes right up front. And that's where you can really supercharge your IRA and really build that a lot faster. So, I think that was a really eye opener for me.
Right. Absolutely. And as you might have seen before you came on, I covered a note that I picked up in Detroit of all places, and it was a 72-month note. And when I showed the audience how quickly you get your money back on that, I think that's a little eye-opening as well. That doesn't happen with rentals. You put your money in, and even if you can leverage it, leverage the money to do that, to get that appreciation that they talk about, you've got to hang on to it for a long time.
Right.
Whereas I think the amortization and how quickly the notes pay off, especially at our age, we want to have that money to enjoy it rather than hang on to something that might be worth something when we're 85.
Yeah, because when you compare what the rental expenses are, so I think the rule of thumb is that 50% of your monthly rental payment goes to expenses, whereas with notes, you're talking maybe less than $50 a month in expenses.
Just
So huge, yeah. And I think for me, what was really impressive with notes is that I knew exactly what my income was going to be. So here I had been living on the stock market. Well, that fluctuates so much,
right.
But I'm getting a steady income. So I think note investors, they can plan. If they need $5,000 a month to live on, $10,000, whatever the case may be, they can work towards that. And it's easier to work towards that rather than depending on the stock market.
It's a beautiful thing. And like I said, I was fortunate enough to retire a couple of months ago, at a much later age than you did.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to hit those income goals. And, with notes, I know what's coming in. It's just, I don't have to worry about the market going up or down. The financial advisors tell you, well, in the market, limit yourself to 4%, and that can vary, with it up and down. It's kind of like, the other thing is that by keeping that balance in there, their 1% fee is worth a little bit more as well. So, I'm not bashing on them, but it's
I agree with you, Tom, because I don't want to live on 4%. I want to live on more. I had a good salary at Verizon, and so I was used to traveling and doing the things that I wanted to do. So when I gave up that salary, I didn't want to go drop it down to 4% drawn out of my retirement. That just didn't seem feasible to me. So with notes, I can really control my investments and how much I'm earning each month. So
absolutely. Yeah. The other thing is, with notes, what I try to convey to people is you may have almost all of your wealth tied up in notes, but it's very liquid. If you need to get money out of it, then you can, well, first of all, you can sell it. You can sell it quickly, especially in our ecosphere. There's somebody who will buy your note.
Absolutely.
And you won't take a haircut because you've already bought the note at a discount. So you shouldn't have to do it at a fire sale. Or within our ecosphere, there'll be somebody who'll be willing to hypothecate with you. In other words, loan you money, use the note as collateral. So that's why I don't really see the need to have such a big emergency fund sitting there making very little, because in a pinch, it's very liquid. Unlike owning a whole pile of rentals, if I need to cash that out, I'm going to take a haircut if I can find somebody to buy it. So,
exactly. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love the abundance mindset. That's kind of what notes do for you, is you can plan. You don't have to keep your fingers crossed. Say, hey, can we go on this nice vacation? And while it's gone, the stock market crashes 20%. And there's a story in the preface of my book. In January 2008, there were a lot of pilots at my airline retiring. It was the way interest rates had moved around. It made sense for them to go. Otherwise, they'd lose money staying on. And a buddy of mine retired with $3 million in the stock market, which is, when you save over 30 years, that's not unusual.
Yeah.
Well, 18 months later is $1.5 million. That's really a kick.
Yeah, it's very sickening.
It is.
And I know from last week, when they had that 1,000-point drop, that is, especially if you're in our age bracket, that really hurts, because how long is it going to take you to recover that? So, and then if you turn that around with notes, so, I've had some of my performing notes that, I had to go into foreclosure. That was really during the COVID period. And I thought, oh goodness, I'm going to lose some money on here. But I didn't, because when they went into foreclosure, I got all my principal back. I got the interest that I was supposed to earn. All the late fees were paid. And then all my attorney foreclosure fees were all paid. And
Right.
on those a couple of notes that I had to go into foreclosure with, I still made $12,000-$13,000
Yeah,
on those, and I had only owned them a year. So that was
absolutely.
still a pretty good return. So that really kind of took the fear factor out of investing in notes. Well, what if the borrowers don't pay?
Right.
And even like you were mentioning about on the notes, we buy those at a discount. I had a couple of notes that paid off early. So, like I say, I only
Mhm.
owned a couple of them for about a year, and then they paid off early. And I thought, well, now I've lost all the interest I had been planning on. But no, I still made a 27% yield on those two
Yep.
notes. So,
Yep.
again, I think that takes the fear factor of what if the borrower doesn't pay, or what if they pay early.
Absolutely. In fact, I just had one pay off in July. I had it for 10 months and I made 30%, and
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
it was a really nice interest paying loan, but yeah, I'll take a 30% return in
Exactly.
10 months and reinvest it. And
And
when I
reinvest.
reinvest it, I come to you and we'll talk to that about that
There
in a
you go.
second. So let's talk about your note investing journey a little bit. So the notes that you invested in initially, say like in your first year, were they in Texas or were they in other places around the country?
No, I was buying all over the place. So
Okay.
my first year, I bought 11 notes. And so, like I say, they were all over the place. Most of them, Midwest. I have one in Delaware. So
Nice.
yeah. So they're a little bit everywhere.
Okay, good deal. And the reason we can do that is because the foreclosure process isn't as scary as people make it out to be, right?
Exactly.
If you bought the note properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
And again, we're buying those at a discount. So that's our cushion in there,
Right.
So
Exactly.
if the note happens to default, then we've got that cushion built in there and you're still going to be profitable.
Right. So as an example, just for folks who aren't too familiar with what we do, let's say that there's somebody buys a house for $100,000, puts $20,000 down, and this is just scalable numbers. So 100,000. There are still $100,000 homes out there, just not in downtown Dallas. But so they've got skin in the game. There's 20% down, and say maybe a year later, whoever financed that with them wants to put the note on the market, and say that debt's down to about $75,000. It's just a market condition of ours where we could go in and probably buy that for about $60,000 or so. We'd say depending on some variables such as interest rate and length of term. But honestly, on maybe a 30-year note that's season 5, season a year or two, at 6 or 7% interest rate, we probably could come in and buy it for 60. So the bottom line is we're buying a property worth say $100,000. We're not buying a property. We're buying the debt. So the property, let's say, is worth $100,000. The borrower owes 75. So they've got skin in the game. They're motivated to keep paying, and we're buying that debt for 60. So if the worst case happens and they stop paying, first of all, I would expect them to maybe want to sell the property, which would be a good thing. But there are other workout options that we talk about. There's cash for keys, but if it gets to foreclosure, you're entitled to an entire unpaid balance, like you said, your legal cost to get it to foreclosure, the winterizing of the property, and everything else. So in the end, since you bought it so far below what the unpaid balance was, you should come out ahead. Is the way it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So I like our business for a couple of reasons. One is we can help people because when they get into that situation, we're not like Wells Fargo. I bought a note. One of my early notes was bought from Revolve, and they were reperforming a note on a woman who had just become a widow. She was 80 something years old, and they had paid on the house for 8 years. But in that time frame, when her world was upended, she missed some payments. They didn't care. They were going ahead and foreclosing. And I'll say that right on here. I can show it. I don't mean to disparage Wells Fargo, but banks don't want these things on their sheets anymore. So they unloaded it to Revolve, who got it reperforming for her, and I bought that note. And so she was able to stay at her house at an easier payment, and that's great. But what I show people on my spreadsheet is just that, what the best thing that could happen for me from a financial standpoint is if I foreclose on everybody, because I have so much equity in all of these properties that's actually a financially beneficial outcome for me. Not that I want that. I like the long-term income, but as you were alluding to, it's our safety net. So that's what allows you and me to sleep at night, because if these people owed more, and you were into it for more than the property is worth, that's a whole different story. And so I like to address those concerns up front. People are like, well, what if you foreclose? Like, well, the way it's taught at note school and the way we buy, that shouldn't be a problem,
Right.
unless something really crazy happens to the economy. So,
well, Tom, and I think what you're saying is that we help people is that, when a borrower goes into default or starts, slowing their pays or whatever, we don't foreclose right away. We do payment options, payment arrangements with them. We're working to help them to stay in their home, because that's really the end goal, is that they get to stay in their home. But if they don't, we can modify the loan. We can do a forbearance and put what they owe on the back end of the loan. So there's so many ways that we can help people stay in their homes, and that is a good thing. But if it has to go to default, then again, we have that safety net to we're still going to profit on that property.
absolutely. I found the servicers that I use to be very good with that as well. I'm always monitoring my portfolio, and I've had 2 foreclosures, but I kind of expected those when I bought the note. They were kind of behind, and I was reading the servicer's notes, and I said, this note's priced fairly enough. I kind of expect it to go to foreclosure, and I give everybody a chance. It's like, if you're watching this out there and you're in trouble with your mortgage, don't ignore the lender. Don't ignore the servicer. Just communicate. It's when you go, when you ghost them, that you're probably going to find things don't work out too well. But in our world, especially I know in the note school ecosphere, I just want that monthly check coming in. I don't want to go through the hassle of foreclosing and selling the house and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been the same way. And in fact, I've got a note in Temple, Texas right now where they've started to fall behind and they're pushing 90 days. But the servicer sends out a reminder letter, and they eventually scrape together the money to get them back under 60. And that's fine with me. I'm just happy that it continues. It's not optimum, but they're continuing to pay. And in this environment, people go through tough times, and we can have that ability to help them through it. So that's what I really like.
And there's all kinds of scenarios out there. And I think, with the seller finance notes that, we buy, is that you have that opportunity to work with them. It's not like a big bank, where you're having to pay that loan. I'll give an example too, is that I have a note in Arizona. They pay every 3 months. They pay the late fees. We tried to modify the loan. They don't want to, but that's their payment habit. And I'm okay with that. As long as they're paying, I'm good with it. So,
Absolutely.
So there's different scenarios out there.
On the annual book, it looks great. So that's all that matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think
Good.
You mentioned the servicer too. So, if you're buying notes, I'm not having to call them to collect the payments. You've got that servicer out there that's doing that for you. So again, where I wanted a more passive investment, that's it. I'm like you, Tom. I'm monitoring my monthly payments. If they start getting 45 days past due, I'm really watching them a little bit closer. But really, the servicer is taking care of that for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you on that. In fact, I've got one of my semi-daily rituals is checking on the notes that are not performing very well. And one of my servicers, I just contact them and I say, hey, asset such and such, can you just call them and just find out what the story is? And they do that, and a lot of times that's all it does to get them back online again. And they say, hey, at a certain point, we'll send the notice of demand. And send the letter out. And, with all the notes that I've had, like I said, I'm over 30 now. 3 have paid off early and 2 foreclosed, and I expected that. Everybody else gets back on track eventually. And that's what I like. And we have the ability to wait that out and to help them and to modify things if we need to. So,
yeah, I agree.
So speaking about helping people, tell us what your new job is. What are you doing in terms of Colonial and Note School? Tell us all about that.
Yeah. So 80 Speed, owner of Note School and Colonial Funding Group, he asked me to join the Colonial Funding team. So that is the trade desk side of the business. So Note School is strictly the training, and then the Colonial Funding side is where the trade desk at Colonial Fundings, they acquire properties. They do all the due diligence on those notes. Not properties. I keep saying property. They acquire those notes, and then they do all the due diligence on those. And then once it gets through that due diligence portion, then I'm able to sell it to the Note School students. So that gives students access to quality assets. They've already been through the due diligence process. They're pulling broker price opinions so we can determine what the value is. They're pulling the title reports on all of those, so we can make sure that everything is clear. If there's any underlying liens or mortgages on any of those are all cleared off. Taxes are all brought current. So that way we're presenting quality assets to the students to buy, whether they're buying for their own portfolios or, they're brokering those notes to their private investors. So that's what I do, is I help match those notes that are available to sell to the students.
It sounds like you're giving them a lot of their time back and taking out the fear factor.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially for a new note school student, they're learning the process. So they may bypass a lot of good notes just because they don't understand it. Or what Colonial is doing, they're doing the majority of what they're doing, all the due diligence on there. And then really you just got to understand it, learn it, know what you're signing, know what you're buying, but you can have the confidence that they've already done that due diligence.
As you're talking about this, it kind of dawned on me. It's kind of like when you're buying a somewhat used car, you can go get one off of Craigslist, and keep your fingers crossed and meet some guy in a parking lot and give him some money. Or you can go to some place, like CarMax or something, and they've already reconditioned the car and the title's all good, and they'll stand behind it with a warranty, that kind of thing. It's
that's a great comparison. Yeah, that's a great comparison. So
I like that. So you get to interact with everybody who joins Note School, and it's no secret that's where my pedigree is from, is Note School. So so you're in touch with all of the new investors, and I know why you and I got involved in Notes and what it does at our stage in life, but we have younger folks coming in, and so what are you seeing with the younger generation, the newer note investors? Why are they getting into notes, and what's some of the feedback from them?
So their goal is to retire by age 50. Nice. So I
remember that. I wanted to do that one day.
Exactly. So I mean, they're out there, they're exploring different ways to really create those accounts where you can do that. So a lot of people don't know that, if you are working with a company that has a 401k, that a lot of these companies allow you to transfer a portion of that into a self-directed IRA where you can control that. Well, it seems like the younger ones are finding that out early, where, I just learned about it, 5-6 years ago. Right. So they're really wanting to create income to where they can retire early. Yeah, they may have to, take a hit on a penalty for pulling out the money early, but they're looking for ways that they can do that. Another thing that, you don't have to only buy notes with your IRA and retirement accounts. You can do what you were talking about, the hypothecation. There's other people that will loan you that money. So that is mailbox money for them without, using their retirement accounts. So that's what the younger generation is looking to do. They're looking to retire age 50, 55. Okay,
fantastic. Another thing they can do with the 401k that I think is written into the documents is they can take a loan out of that.
Exactly.
A lot of them can take a loan up to like 50%, not to exceed a certain amount. And so that jumpstarts them as well. And much less speculative than putting it into, a rental home. A lot of restrictions when you use an IRA to try to fix and flip you need an attorney to guide you through that, because there are a lot of pitfalls there.
Yeah.
So, any other insights from the new note investors, or anything you want to tell the audience? I mean, we've got a great conversation going on 40 minutes now. So
So I think for me, Tom, is kind of like what you mentioned early on. I wish I'd known this 15 years ago. About notes. Like I say, I dabbled in the rentals. I dabbled in doing the wholesaling business and fix and flips. And here I was working a 60-hour-a-week job trying to do all of that. When I found notes and how easy it was, I could probably have built a much bigger retirement had I been investing in notes because of the returns on those notes. Nearly every one of my notes, except for maybe one or two, they're all double-digit returns consistently. And I didn't have that when I was just staying within the stock market.
Absolutely. Are you going to look to do some of the leveraging stuff, like selling partials and things like that? You're going to.
I've sold some partials. I've brokered
Okay.
some notes, so I've done a little bit of both of that.
Nice.
I've also have been working with an investor who owns a portfolio of 300 rentals, and he's looking, he's in his 70s and he's looking to get out of those rentals. So I'm looking to see if I can help him convert those into notes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I've dabbled a little bit. I've had, like I say, I've done partials, I've done foreclosures, I've done early payoffs, I've had brokered notes. So I've been able to touch a little bit of it. I like brokering the notes. That kind of gives me some immediate income off of brokering notes. So I like that as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a lot. 6 years in, and you're killing it.
Truly, and there is no way I could have done this volume with rentals or fix and flips. There's just no way, so
absolutely.
And being able to leverage those retirement accounts was key.
And you probably agree with me when I say that it's much easier to pass this kind of portfolio on to your heirs versus something that's full of rentals. I would never want to do that to my family. Here's 20 rentals, and have my family try to deal with that. But this is just paper. So,
it's just paper. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you weren't working for Colonial, you'd just be working your notes and life would be good, just all relaxed and
exactly
nothing to worry about because everything's predictable, right? You're probably a spreadsheet person like me.
I am. I love spreadsheets.
I sit there and I calculate it out and I said, well, September's going to bring in this much, give or take a little bit.
And I like the strategy is that, okay, if I want to increase what I'm getting already in that monthly income, what do I need to do? So, I can do that, a couple of strategies at a time. So I think with notes, there's so many things that you can do with it, but, kind of tailor it to your personality and what you want your life to look like and keep it simple. Like I say, I could do a gazillion different things, but I keep it simple. That way I have all the freedom I need to spend time with my great niece and nephews and time with my dad. And I love camping, and that's what I love to do. So
you're going to start showing them about notes? Have you already started to do that?
I did, so I think sometimes family, it's a little bit harder to get them to buy into it, but they have seen my success. And now I've invested with my brother and my nephew into a non-performing note. Okay. And so we've done that through Note School as well and Colonial.
Fantastic. And so you said you had a grandniece and nephew? Did you say
I have, let's see, 3 great niece and nephews. So
sounds like Coverdale accounts in the workings there.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's another strategy for another day. Monica, thanks so much for coming on today. I know you're busy with what you have to do with Colonial today and all that, but you were the perfect guest to just have a chat about retirement and notes, and this way people just don't hear from me, but somebody, you're actually on the inside now, and it's nice because that, as you said, you can sit there and plan and say, hey, how do I strategize to increase my income a little bit? What's the best step now going forward to increase my wealth? And you know where the assets are and how to get a hold of them. You've got the expertise to do that. So if you all have enjoyed what we've talked about, I'm going to have some information here. I'm going to cut away for a very short break, but I'll have some ways that you can find out more about Note School and join. And if you do, you'll be talking to Monica and she'll be hooking you up with assets, and you too can enjoy the freedom that we both enjoy. So Monica, thank you so much for having me on today, or being on my show today. I'm so used to seeing you on the other screen. I didn't mention this, but on Mondays, part of what we do at Note School is we have a webinar every afternoon on performing notes, and Monica's in there as one of the moderators and the experts in there. And so I'm kind of used to seeing you and thinking I'm in class, but it's actually my show today, so it's kind of confusing. I'm 65, but I usually get confused. But.
Well, thank you for having me. This has really been fun. I love talking notes. It's been so successful for me, so I really enjoy it. And I just wish that others that wanted to get into real estate investing, this is a really cool way to go to really build your wealth.
Absolutely, and I can't say it's risk-free, but I think it's the lowest risk. I think it's just a step above CDs, which everybody our age knows about CDs.
That's right.
But I mean, honestly, the way we buy them, the way we work them, the return is much better. So
Yeah.
thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you in one of the webinars soon, and maybe some people in our audience will be talking with you soon as Note School members.
I hope so. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Monica.
Appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Well, I was certainly pleased to have Monica on. I think that was a great interview. It's nice to have other folks who have reached a certain level of financial success and know exactly how to explain it to others, and not resting on her laurels, but also increasing her wealth and helping others at the same time work on their wealth. That's what we're trying to do here at No Club USA, and Monica's doing the same thing with her involvement with Note School and with Colonial Funding Group. So anyway, I certainly hope that you found this interesting. Maybe this is your aha moment like I had 3 years ago. Love for you to go to our website and find out more. Do go ahead and go to the website, read through my book, read through the preface, and we have a lot of interesting information on there. You can go ahead and go to the website and see webinars, and then sign up for the free masterclass. Everything's free. And, I don't feel good about charging for this information or anything else. All it was an opportunity. I heard about it for free and then got involved and got my education. And I want you to decide whether this is for you or not. So anyway, it's all there. We hope to be back with another podcast. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, I'll line up another guest for you. I'm sure it'll be interesting. So anyway, until then, please take advantage of our resources. You can reach out to me, Tom at noteschoolusa.com, or hit the consult button and get on my calendar up in the upper corner of the website. I do buy and sell notes. And so if you're interested in that as well, reach out to me. Want to get on our mailing list and know when the next offering is coming up, we can do that as well. So anyway, we have a lot going on. I'm glad you stayed in to the end, and hopefully it's been valuable for you. Give me some feedback if you like. Go ahead and send that to me as well. So until then, we'll see you next time, and happy note investing or whatever else it is you're in. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Take care.